Hello everyone, I'm Sahil and welcome back to the channel. So yesterday Baidu released their Q2 2021 earnings report, and since you already know I'm covering Baidu on this channel, so it's a high time we go take a look at the report itself. And if you're somebody who's just joining us in and you want to tag along in the ride of Baidu with us, if you're invested of course, then just hit the subscribe button and yeah, keep up with the news. So let's head it up. Alright guys, before we start, just a small plug. I've started a new Discord channel for our small community over here. If you want to join, the link is in the description below. It's completely free. All you have to do is just come in and introduce yourself, just a little bit of your background, nothing personal, just so we understand you a bit more, and I will give you the access to the main channels and we can start discussing. So yeah, that being said, let's get into the topic for the day, the Q2 earnings report of Baidu. And as always, we're going to start with the numbers first, the financials, because financials don't lie. So before we move on to the whatever the management has to say, we must take a look at the numbers first, and then we have a clearer picture. Let me just orientate you to the screen first, because it's really confusing. There are a shit lot of numbers, and I also got confused when I first saw this thing. So these first four columns, right, the first few columns are of Q2 2020, last year, quarter two. The middle one are the first quarter 2021 numbers, and the last few columns are for Q2 2021, so the latest quarter. And I've highlighted the key points over here, but let me just go through it with you guys. So looking at the revenue, right, they have split up the revenue into Baidu Core and iQIYI. If you don't know the business segments, or the introduction to or whatever Baidu is doing, then you can go and check out my in-depth analysis for this company. It's a separate video. I will link it down in the description below if you want to check it out, and that will make your life way easier to understand what's going on over here. Okay, so that being said, Baidu Core, the revenue growth was phenomenal. It went up year over year 27%, which is amazing. And the company was projecting 25% growth year over year for second quarter. So 27% is definitely good. And iQIYI also saw a growth year over year of 3%. Quarter over quarter, Baidu Core grew by 17%, and iQIYI grew by a negative 5%. So iQIYI, really, I'm not a fond of iQIYI business, and I'm investing into Baidu because of Baidu Core itself, and specifically their new business segments. Baidu Core is split into the two sides, right? Marketing and non-marketing businesses. So marketing business to me brings in cash flow, and the new business segment is where the growth is coming from. So yeah, so moving on to the operating income, we actually saw a decrease of 7% year over year, and that is quite weird, right? Since Baidu Core itself, they saw a revenue growth of 27%, and then the income is actually dropping. That's kind of weird. So the reason behind it should be the cost, because if the revenue is growing and the operating income is going down, that means that cost is growing more than the revenue itself. So looking at the cost, we see huge growth. So cost of revenue grew by 42%. Marketing expenses grew about 40%. Then we have research and development expense grew about 34%. Cost and expenses grew 39%. So these are definitely some high numbers of growth in terms of cost. So we have to definitely look at what's really happening, because this is really going to hinder the margin. So if you see the operating margins, right, is 19%, whereas last year in the same quarter they had a margin of 26%, and that is really going to affect the valuation quite a bit. And moving on, we have other few things that I noted, after the operating income, right, the net income attributed to Baidu has decreased quite significantly. So we have 96% decrease in the net income to Baidu, which is a huge drop. So why is that so? Is because of these expenses over here. We can see that first of all, there was some other income losses of 2 billion RMB, and we have this income tax expense also that has actually increased. It has almost doubled. So last year was 1206, and now it's 2 billion something. So that has attributed to the huge drop in net income. However, I would like to say that other than the operating income, the rest doesn't really matter that much, because these are non-core to whatever the business is doing. So first of all, like our focus is operating income to know how the company is going around. The other expenses are a bit external to the company. So this one, of course, it affects the amount of money the company is making, but it's not that important. However, we have to still check if it's really something external and not really that big of a deal for the company. So we'll figure that out in the management discussion again. So moving on to the management discussion, right? Over here we have all the highlights, and the first highlights under the corporate highlights is that they had a 3.1 billion RMB fair value loss from long-term investment compared to the fair value gain of RMB 23.7 billion in Q1 2021, both primarily related to the mark-to-market adjustment of Kuashao technology. I don't know, I'm pronouncing that right, but whatever. So this thing, right, definitely this is the part where the non-operating losses come in from, like whatever we mentioned just now in the financials. So this is one of the reasons why there was a huge negative number. And what this is actually is just like, Kuashao it was like a hyped up company back when it was listed. It got listed recently, if I'm not wrong, at the start of this year or end of last year. So obviously it was trading very high, and with the recent clampdown and the crash in the Chinese tech stocks, their stock price have definitely dived. And if I'm not wrong, I saw it was over 70% or 68 to 70% that the stock dived. Hence, like, since Baidu has invested into them, right? Every quarter they have to actually adjust the value of their investment into Kuashao in their balance sheet according to whatever the stock price is. So if the stock price went up, then they have to increase the fair value of this company in their balance sheet, and they have to report the gains in the income statement. That's why, since there was a clampdown, the stock price of Kuashao technology went down. There was a loss in the balance sheet, but this is just like a superficial loss. Like, if you believe in the Chinese companies, the tech companies, and you're investing into them, then surely you understand that the stock price is currently depressed, and that is not really the value of the company, right? A fair value of Kuashao. It's just the stock price it's trading at, and eventually it's just gonna go up, and then we will see Baidu taking up huge gains in the income statement just because of this. So this is just up and down, and it's a bit of noise in the income statement, and we should just ignore it. In my opinion, it is not going to affect our fair value calculation of Baidu itself. So moving on from this, Baidu tells us that they have actually made a goal of becoming carbon neutral by 2030. This is actually great. Like, China as a country has a goal to go carbon neutral in 2060. So if I'm not wrong, it's 2060. I have not really checked, but in my mind it's 2060. So Baidu is actually pushing back the pushing back. So yeah, they have actually faster carbon neutral goals. So that is great. I mean, as a tech leading company in China, they should have, they should be a leader into going carbon neutral as well. And they also mentioned that one of their data centers, so data center is one of the energy intensive infrastructure that we have on the earth. They draw a lot of energy, right? And as we know, China's energy is not very clean. It's a lot of coal that is used. Baidu's data center, this particular one, they were awarded a carbon neutral data center leader 5A certification, which is the highest rating for green data. So this really shows how Baidu is committed into going carbon neutral. And as a brand, right, it also increases their value, since, right, they are trying to go towards the EV autonomous vehicle side, which is again a view of the greener side of the world, like all the EV tech and stuff. So by going carbon neutral as a company, they really show where their branding, like it affects their branding in a way. So yeah, they also mentioned that they have actually returned $566 million to the shareholders under the 2020 share purchase program within this year. This is great on the surface, but we have to double check it. Like, sometimes these tech companies, right, they have massive, compensation plans for their management and employees. So they sometimes issue more shares to, to compensate their employees and the management than the amount they spend on on repurchasing these shares. So in the end, what happens is that their number of outstanding shares have actually usually increased instead of decreasing even after the share repurchase plan. However, I forgot to check this for Baidu. What is the current outstanding shares and what was it last year? So I will go and check it, and I will put that down in the comments below. So yeah, give me some time for it. Moving on to the AI cloud, right? Baidu was ranked number one AI cloud provider again, and this was according to the IDC 2020 report. So this is for last year, not the latest, this quarter and or something like that. It's going well for my investment thesis. AI cloud for Baidu is one of my investment thesis, and why I invested into Baidu. Alibaba is a leader of cloud as a whole. However, Baidu is leading in the AI cloud world, and that is really great. So giving an example over here, they are also saying that they use their AI cloud, AI solutions for Fujian water treatment plant for equipment malfunction and dynamically adjusting water pressure based on the predicted usage of from the data they have collected already in the past, and they have actually cut the electricity usage by 8% just by implementing their AI cloud solution. So this is the kind of improvements their AI cloud can bring to a particular company. And this is great, right? And they also used it for Geely Holdings. Geely is a leading automotive manufacturer in China, one of the huge ones. So yeah, they provided private cloud solutions and other cloud applications to enable Geely to leverage Baidu's AI to optimize the manufacturing capabilities and provide cloud services to its automotive suppliers and customers. Again, this is great. And Geely, right? Baidu and Geely are really collaborating heavily. They also are starting their own EV company, as I've mentioned before, BIDU Auto. They are both the shareholders into that company. So yeah, their bond with Geely is really growing stronger, and this is amazing because one of the members of my Discord channel actually mentioned that Geely's boss is the brother-in-law of President Xi or Chairman Xi. So I don't know what you make out of that, but it's all up to you or you want to think about that. So yeah. But anyways, moving on, the next point that the management make is that the coverage of Apollo AC smart transportation system has grown to 20 cities in June 2021, up 4 falls from a year ago. So yeah, this is definitely great. If I remember correctly, last year, at the end of last year, they had this thing in 12 cities, and now within the 6 months they have added another 8 cities to their list. So this is definitely great. And what ACE stands for is A is autonomous vehicles, C is connected roads, and E is efficient systems. So basically, autonomous vehicle, we already know how Apollo is getting into them. They are developing the software for autonomous driving and autonomous valet parking. And then connected road is where you have sensors on the roads itself, on the roads, the infrastructure as a whole for transportation system, and then that gives a feedback to the central control center of a city, where they can detect maintenance schedules of if a road needs any kind of maintenance, and it can generally just communicate with the vehicles. You can communicate with the various things, right? I don't want to deep dive into what exactly everything means. And E is just efficient management of everything, right? So you have a control center. It's supported by Baidu's AI cloud, which manages all the data and everything. So that is a complete package where the future of smart transportation system is going, according to Baidu and according to the 20 cities that have adopted their solution, right? And this also tells us how fast China is going towards their autonomous driving goals. So 20 cities have already implemented a smart transportation system as a whole, not just like a autonomous driving vehicle, right? The entire freaking system is what they are adopting. So this is amazing. And with this, right, it also helps Apollo's systems to be compatible with the roads, so they can communicate, and it makes it more efficient and robust as an entire system, whereas the competitors currently can't do it. Tesla can't do it, definitely, and other platforms as well. They can't do this shit. So yeah, Baidu is way ahead of them in this sector. And as this thing is getting implemented, right, it's so easy for Baidu to actually roll out their vehicles, and they have a target to get into 30 cities with their autonomous robo taxis, right, by the end of in the next 2-3 years. So this goal doesn't seem very difficult after you see the numbers they are projecting. So amazing. Then we move on to the intelligent driving, and one thing they have mentioned is that L4 level 4 autonomous driving accumulated the test mass, blah blah blah, all those things. Baidu introduced 5th generation robotaxi in June, which again saw a 60% drop in the cost per mile. So far, Baidu has developed 5 generations of robo taxis, right? And even though they are saying like 60% for this generation, right, the drop, they have actually done a 60% drop in consistently over the 5 generation. That's what they said during the earnings call. So they are really decreasing the cost per mile for the robo taxis quite a bit. And according to the CEO, right, Robin Lee, his projection is by 2025 the cost of hailing a robo taxi would be lower than that of a human driver. So that is the point where the industry is going to boom and Baidu is going to boom, because once it drops below the ride hailing cost of a human driver, that's where you see a huge expansion, because you are profitable. That is where people are gonna go now, because it's cheaper to adapt to, and that's where the human drivers are completely gonna be eliminated. I mean, it's bad for them because they're losing job, but obviously China is upskilling all this people, right? So yeah, after 2025 is where all the fruits are actually gonna be ripe out for Apollo and Baidu itself to pluck and eat, for us as well as a shareholder, right? So that's what we are waiting for. Apollo Go ride-hailing expanded to Guangzhou, the fourth city operating, and provided 47. Oh yeah. So one of the thing, like one of the viewers mentioned, is that, you know, when I compared Baidu with Baidu's Apollo with Tesla and other players, they said that Tesla obviously is out there being tested by the public. And obviously, if they look to be sucky because they cannot operate everywhere, then that's just because they are being tested extensively, right, by the public itself, instead of a company doing it where they find comfortable. But anyways, what we are worried about is wherever they are operating, how is the user rating like? So it's quite great. I mean, if you see even the human riding experiences, then if you rate them 4.9, that is quite high, right? But then again, yeah, it is mentioned by Robin Lee themselves as well. Like, he was like, you know, to keep everything safe, because Baidu is actually operating their vehicles driverless, and they are only there is only 2 companies around the world that are actually operating their vehicles without driver for public. So yeah, and they were the first one to do so. So by him, he's trying to say that even though like there are safety drivers in other part of the world, but wherever they drive without a driver, they're actually taking the safe route, and they want to be very sure that it is actually safer than a human driver. The statistics are safer than a human driver, and then only they allow it to happen, and only for those routes. That's why they're limiting the routes. However, other other areas, they allow with the safety driver for, you know, public uses or usage of the vehicle, and that's where the satisfaction is. I want you to try to find like Chinese videos where people actually reviewing Apollo Go service, but I'm not Chinese. It's kind of hard. I want to ask my friends to do it, but I will try to do it sometime. And I think I've already covered that Waze Mocha is actually implementing Apollo's autonomous valet parking, and this is actually the second vehicle that's doing that. And yeah, so second half of the year they are going to start implementing that. And again, this is good because, you know, they are collecting the data and people are getting used to Apollo software and the integration. So what Baidu is doing, right, if they also have the infotainment system. So Baidu supplies the software, the Duo OS for infotainment system. So everything is linked with that. And by having the automated valet parking, right, they're actually getting the users to be used to that OS and also autonomous driving. And once everything starts to roll out, right, they will be better off. And they're also trying to gather data using this thing. And the other growth initiative I've already mentioned, Xiaodu was also ranked number 1 in smart display shipment globally. So around the globe, beating Amazon, Google, Apple, every one of them. So this is great to see. That was consistent with last year, so they have maintained their lead over here. They're also number 1 smart speaker shipment in China itself. So this also, they have maintained their lead over last year. Within China, it's not globally, so they are still behind other players. So yeah, and then we have so Xiaodu, right, this smart devices name that they have, the branding. So this is actually, they are trying to target it to elderly people. So yeah, this is a great strategy. And yeah, I think it works perfectly great. That's why they are able to maintain their lead, right? And they have also meant so they have this Xiaodu Tian T10 for karaoke, which is quite popular these days, right? And obviously with COVID, people are not allowed to go. Maybe in China you're allowed to go. Yeah, I think in China you're allowed to go. But this is actually at a quite expensive price point. Whereas like the smart speaker thing, it goes around for I think 500 RMB. This is three times. So is actually entering the leagues of other foreign brands. So yeah. Then we have the mobile ecosystem, and mobile ecosystem is just generally delivering revenue through marketing. So what they are focusing in is going towards managed pages, and that has reached 40% of Baidu's core online marketing revenue. Why they're doing it is because they want to maintain control over how companies or advertisers are actually advertising, and it is actually something that they came up with after Chinese government really regulated them after dubious products being marketed out on Baidu, and they were not able to do this, and because of that one person died because he tried to use those dubious medicines or something for their cancer treatment, and that student died. So after that, Chinese government went hard on them, and they made them to do something about it, and they came up with this managed page. So the advertisers, they have to make their own, they have to make an account with Baidu, and so after you click on the ad, right, usually you will go on the landing page of the advertiser, right, whichever company that is, instead of going to the advertisers page. With this managed page, it looks like the advertisers page, but is actually under Baidu. So Baidu has hold the control on what is being posted over there, and they can analyze it to find if it's something dubious or something not reliable, and they can also track various things. So one thing they mentioned during the earnings call is that one of a moving company like Packers and Movers, they started to use their managed products, and after 30 days their revenue actually doubled. So that was because people really trust Baidu, and if somebody is advertising on Baidu and using their managed page, there's a lot of security being involved. With specifically with Packers and Movers, you're actually inviting people you don't know to come to your house, which is quite dangerous, right? But with the managed page, it's all being tracked. Like who are the people, if the company is legit or not. This gives them the signal, and also the payments are actually, because for that particular company you have to actually deposit some money before the movers and packers come in. So it's also secure way of doing this deposits and stuff. So that's why this is growing very much, and we are also seeing the what you call it, the revenue for marketing business is actually growing, picking up pace now. It was actually dropping like crazy after all the regulations and everything that they went into from 2016 to 2019. That's why we saw a huge decline in the stock price of Baidu as well. But now it's going back to, it's picking up paces, and I think that's a good thing. Even though it's competing with Alibaba on the advertisement space, right? And I think they cannot beat Alibaba definitely, because all the main type of advertisements is not services but products. And if somebody wants to sell certain products, they are going to advertise them on Alibaba instead of Baidu, right? So obviously Baidu is going to stay back, but definitely it's a cash cow, and if it's growing a bit, that's amazing itself. Moving on, iQIYI. So one thing we notice is that the subscribers have reached 106.2 million subscribers. So this is something if you saw my previous video, I mentioned that the subscriber count was actually dropping. So it was 106 million, I think 3 quarters ago, or last year sometime, one of the quarter it was that number, and then it dropped down to 104 million by end of last year, and by the end of first quarter it was down to 101 million subscribers. So it was dropping quite fast, but then it had a serious pickup. So the reason I mentioned there was a drop last time was because iQIYI actually hiked their prices last year. So that's why people were actually moving towards Tencent videos, which was actually showing expansion in their subscriber count. However, in April this year, right, Tencent Video also increased their their subscription price. So we are seeing that after everything getting equalized, right, people are returning to iQIYI. That means to say that the product that they have, that the videos and series and everything that they have on their platform is not bad, and people just didn't want to pay for extra like after the price hike, and there were some people who just took the shock and moved out. However, now they are picking up pace again, so which is a good thing. However, overall, iQIYI, I don't like them. Like, that is just a drag on the company. I like the other businesses more. However, if Baidu is sticking to it, there must be some reason, or they might be trying to create some synergy in between the other products and stuff. So yeah, that being said, let's move on to some of the details in the earnings, right? So the total revenue, if you see from Baidu Core itself, it increased 27%, like I mentioned, and yeah, 80%. So the non-marketing revenue, so over here is basically all the new initiatives that Baidu is working for, all the exciting part, AI cloud, autonomous vehicles, Xiaodu, and all those various things, right? That grew 80% year over year, which is amazing growth. I think for the first quarter it's about 71%, if I'm not wrong. So this is amazing. It is definitely driven by cloud because they're implementing it so much, and other services. So one thing I forgot to mention, yeah, recently if you saw Twitter for Baidu, right, and if you're following them, they mentioned that they were actually using their AI cloud and spatial recognition to actually help Olympic divers. So if you have heard that Olympic divers from China side actually won a lot of medals. So they were trying to say that they actually use their AI cloud and spatial recognition to actually guide the divers and the coach to actually give quantitative feedback to the divers. So that was pretty great. If you want to go and check out the video, I will link down the Twitter thing in the description below as well. So yeah, go check them out. iQIYI, the revenue wasn't that great. I mean, it increased only 3% year over year. So yeah, blah, whatever. So the next thing we wanted to find out about the financial were the cost of revenue, right? Because it was actually increasing faster than the revenue itself. So what Baidu is trying to blame that on is that it was primarily due to the increase in traffic acquisition cost and the cost of goods sold related to the new AI business. So this part, I'm not very surprised, because definitely the new businesses they are getting into, the margins are very low. So I mean, it's lower than their marketing business, right? Definitely. So as that takes a bigger pie of the revenue, the cost is actually gonna grow faster. And yeah, but what I'm worried about the traffic acquisition cost. So this definitely scares me. I don't know what specific part that is into, but if it's for marketing business or so, then it's kind of scary. I don't want it to grow that much. Let's keep it low. That would be better. But yeah. Anyways, moving on. So the selling general administration expenses is mainly due to marketing, right? It also saw a huge increase, 29% year over year. Then research and development, again 30% year over year increase. These two actually I don't mind, because Baidu itself last year in quarter 2 or quarter 1, they actually clamped down on their spending into these two areas because of what was happening. There was a lot of uncertainty, so marketing cost was decreased. Research and development wasn't decreased. I think it was 18% of their revenue last year. So now they have jacked it up again to 30%, which is massive. And that really shows you how much they're spending into their new products and how much growth you can expect out of them if they're able to monetize that. So the potential for Baidu is amazing, but only if they are able to monetize that potential. And then we have the income tax expense also, right? We saw that it increased twice, like it went twofold year over year. So they are blaming it on income tax expenses recognized on the fair value gain of the long-term investments, and this was the deferred income taxes. So that means that last year, obviously they saw a huge growth, right? All the tech companies grew so much, and then they owe taxes for those growth, and that's what they're paying for now. So it's last year's cost that they are getting paid now. But since the fair value of these companies is going down, right, and Baidu is taking losses in that, which is like non-cash expense, you can say. So yeah, so they're taking artificial losses over there, superficial losses, whatever you want to put it. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. So this year the taxes would be, I mean, the following year the taxes would be very low because they're actually taking losses this year on paper. Yeah. And one thing to take note again is cash and cash equivalent. So they have 27.87 billion USD in cash and cash short-term investments and cash equivalent, which is massive. If you see the market cap of Baidu, right, it's currently at 56 billion USD. So they have 50% of that freaking market cap in cash. So that shows you how freaking big value Baidu is currently trading at. It's amazing. I have been loading up on Baidu. It has actually going to become one of my biggest positions in my portfolio. Actually, the second biggest after China Water Affairs Group. They currently represent, I think, 14 to 15% of my portfolio. So yeah, that shows how much I'm committed into it. However, like, we saw after earnings today, and in the US market, we saw like 3-4% drop in Baidu's stock price. That was generally, I feel it was because of lower guidance that Baidu is giving. So they provided, so growth rate of the total business of about 8 to 19% year over year for third quarter, which is kind of low. I mean, they are putting the low barrier just because, there's an emergence of Delta variant in China right now, and they're trying to be conservative on that ground, and that is the explanation they are trying to give. But so far, Delta variant has not affected the business for Baidu. Yeah. So that's about it for Baidu's Q1 earnings. There's a lot more updates that I have for Baidu, but I don't want to put it into this particular video. And just keep up, just subscribe, and you'll get the other two updates. It's quite exciting. It's about related to the autonomous driving thing, but yeah, massive updates. So yeah, just subscribe and stay updated. Until the next video, ciao.